Have you ever felt broken? Like something inside you was constantly draining away your life, your hope, your very self? She did. For 12 years, she was defined by her sickness. 12 years of a slow, relentless bleed. 12 years of being an outcast, a ghost in her own life. But one day, she chose to believe in a different ending. Her name is lost to history. The Bible doesn't record it. What we know is her suffering. We know her unending pain. She had spent all she had on physicians, on cures that never came. But instead of finding healing, her condition only grew worse. The money was gone. The hope was fading. Her illness didn't just weaken her body, it shattered her world. Under the law, her constant bleeding made her ceremonially unclean. This wasn't just a word, it was a sentence. It meant she couldn't enter the temple to worship. It meant she couldn't embrace her family or share a meal with friends. Anyone or anything she touched became unclean too. She was a source of contamination, a living symbol of what was broken. She was physically exhausted, her body a battlefield. She was emotionally drained, each new day a reminder of her isolation. And she was socially rejected, forced to live on the fringes, invisible and untouchable. But even after years of bitter disappointment, a story reached her. It was a whisper that traveled through the dusty streets, a murmur of hope in the marketplace. It was the name of a man, Jesus. They said he was a teacher, a healer. They said he touched lepers and ate with sinners. They said he loved the outcasts, the very people everyone else pushed away. And somewhere in the barren landscape of her heart, a tiny seed of faith began to sprout. It was a fragile, hesitant thought, but it was there. Maybe he can heal me too. This wasn't a grand declaration. It was a desperate question, a flicker of light in 12 years of darkness. She knew the rules. She knew she wasn't supposed to be in public, especially not in a crowd. Her presence was a risk to everyone around her, and a greater risk to herself. If she were discovered, she would face shame, scorn, and public condemnation. But she decided to risk it all. She had to reach him. A single, powerful thought took root in her mind, becoming her mantra, her prayer, her entire world. If I can just touch the hem of his garment, she told herself, I will be healed. It was a quiet faith, born not of strength, but of desperation. It wasn't loud or demanding. It was a silent, determined, and persistent push against a lifetime of pain. Her faith wasn't a roar. It was the whisper that refused to be silenced. The crowd was a living, breathing sea of humanity. It pressed in on Jesus from all sides, a chaotic mix of the curious, the skeptical, and the desperate. For her, weak and frail, it was an impassable wall, but she pushed. She squeezed through gaps, ignoring the jostling elbows and the dismissive glances. Every step was an act of defiance. Her heart pounded with a mixture of terror and hope. She was breaking every social and religious rule she had ever known. But the thought of one more day of suffering was more terrifying than any public shame. With her eyes fixed on the fringe of his robe, she pressed onward. Then, in a single, fleeting moment, her chance came. Her hand stretched out, trembling. Her fingers, weak from years of illness, brushed against the woven fabric of his garment. It was the lightest touch, a contact so brief it was almost nothing. But in that instant, everything changed. Immediately, she felt a profound shift within her body. The flow of blood that had plagued her for over a decade stopped. Power, warm, vital, and whole, surged through her. The weakness vanished, replaced by a strength she hadn't felt since she was a girl. Her healing was not gradual. It was immediate, complete, and undeniable. Jesus stopped. In the middle of the chaotic, pressing crowd, he came to a halt. He turned, his eyes scanning the faces around him. Then he asked a question that confused his disciples. Who touched me? They were bewildered. Master, one of them said. "The people are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus knew. This was different. This wasn't an accidental bump or a casual jostle. This was a touch of pure, desperate faith reaching out to him. He felt power go out from him, a deliberate transfer of healing. He not only heals the sickness, he sees the one who reaches for him. A wave of fear washed over the woman. She could have slipped away, back into the anonymity of the crowd, her secret healing clutched tightly to her heart. But she knew she couldn't. He was looking for her. Trembling, she came forward and fell at his feet. With her voice shaking, she told him everything, the whole truth. She confessed her 12 years of suffering, her desperate hope, and the reason she had broken the rules to touch him. The crowd fell silent, waiting for the rebuke, the condemnation for her defiling act. But Jesus looked at her, and his eyes held no judgment. There was only love. He leaned down and spoke words that would restore more than just her body. "Daughter," he said, his voice filled with tenderness, "your faith has made you whole. Go in peace." He called her daughter. With that one word, he welcomed her back into the family of God, back into the community. He didn't just heal her physically, he restored her emotionally and spiritually. She was no longer unclean. She was no longer an outcast. She was a daughter, seen, loved, and made whole. True faith isn't about being perfect or fearless. True faith pushes through the fear. It pushes through the pain, the shame, and all the obstacles that stand in the way. It is the hand that reaches out for Jesus, even when everything and everyone tells you to stay hidden. Even when you feel invisible, lost in the crowd of your own struggles and hopelessness, he sees you. He feels the touch of your faith, no matter how small or trembling it may be. Healing doesn't always come in a loud crash of thunder. Sometimes healing comes when you simply hold on to faith, even a trembling faith that can barely whisper his name. Sometimes the greatest miracles of your life will begin with the smallest, most desperate step of belief. Follow Journey Through the Word for more weekly Bible stories told with heart and clarity, because every story reminds us that with God, all things are possible.